All right, guys, welcome to this brand new video. In this one, we're gonna dive into our control statements. Let me just clear that. And the very first control structure that we're gonna talk about is the if-else statements, right? So we got the if, else. Yeah, we got if-else statement. I'd like to do it like a semicolon, a colon, and then if-else. Yeah, we got if-else statements, right? So there's a little bit of English there and there. So in the example that I showed in the introduction video, it was talking about a data type of a type Boolean where we check the weather, right? So is it cold? Is it hot, right? Or okay, is it cold or is it not hot? Is it not cold? So let me just show you exactly how we do that. Firstly, let me just create a scanner here because I think I'm going to use this a bit later. So let me just create it right here just to be safe. There goes my spelling scanner system dot in like this, right? And then I'm going to create a Boolean right here and then say weather, right? So here it is, right? Weather, right? So for now, actually, no, it's fine. We're gonna say for now it's gonna be false, right? So I don't think weather is an appropriate variable name. So let's do is cold, right? Yeah, is cold then would be false, right? So then how do we then use our control structures, right, in order to print out according to the Boolean that we've created right here? So like I said, we're going to be using if-else control structures, right? Control structures, if-else. So this is how it works. This is the structure of your if-else, right? So you have if, and then you have open brackets, and then you have closing curly bracket, opening and closing curly brackets, right? So inside your open and closing curly brackets, this is where you're going to write the code that's supposed to be executed if the condition is true, okay? Or if the condition matches what you've written here. So firstly, let's just write the statement that we want, right? So this is the code that's supposed to be executed if the condition is met. Now inside here, I'm gonna say what if it's not cold, you're supposed to write wear your t-shirt, right? Wear your t-shirt. This is the example that we saw. This is it, right? This is the example that I'm creating here. Is it cold, right? So is cold would be the name of my variable. And then, so what do I write inside the bracket? So this is supposed to be the condition of it. So like I said, we're going to be using which variable? This is called variable, right? So is called variable is supposed to go in here. So is cold, right? So if is cold is equal to, so we do that using double equal sign. So remember, I want you to remember, so one equal sign means I'm assigning I'm assigning what's on the right to what's on the left, right? However, if I use two equal signs, then I'm using it for comparison, right? So is cold, if is cold is equal to false. This is how you read it. If is cold is equal to false, right? And then print wear your t-shirt, okay? And then else does not have the open, does not have the normal braces, or otherwise known as parentheses, okay? We do not have parentheses for else, because else means it's the last line of defense, right? So if the if does not get executed, then do the else instead, okay? So that's why you do not have parentheses. So else system.out.println wear your jacket, right? Wear your jacket. Okay, let's try and run this code right here. Did I save? I hope so. Program_1.java and then Java program_1. Yeah, we've been on program 1 for a very long time now. And that is wear your t-shirt, right? So notice that this line did not get executed because when you're working with conditions, right, it's either you go here or you go here. That's how it works. So now if I change this now to true, remember Boolean can either be true or false, right? So now if I change this to true and load the changes and then execute it, as you can see where you check it, because now this condition is no longer valid, right? So it checks is called if is called is false and is called is true, right? Then it jumps it because it's not valid. Now, since it jumped it, it has to run something, right? So what inside our else is going to be executed by default, right? Okay, let's do another example, right? Let's do another example. In this one, we're gonna use the scanner, right? So we're gonna get the input from the user, right? So the user is gonna tell us what to do. Now, let's say we have an int here, right? Actually, let's use double. I'm tired of using I'm tired of using integers. So here we're gonna say our mark, okay? Our mark is equal to in dot next double, right? So we're gonna get the user to type something in here. So we just want to tell them to enter your mark, okay? Enter your mark. Oh, I forgot oops, I forgot to add that in there. So enter your mark, right? So we're gonna get the mark from the user, right? And you can do some pretty amazing things here. You can, like just play around with it. Remember the IPO system, okay? So we're getting the input there, and then we can, do some processing here, and then have an output. It's still valid. Let me just show you what I mean. So this is input, and then we can have process. So this the IPO system works all throughout, right? So don't worry about it. It works all throughout, and you're going to be using it quite frequently, quite a long time. And okay, so process. So we want to calculate the percentage of how much they got, right? And then let's say the test was out of 70. Right? So enter your mark, right? Out of 70. Okay. So enter your mark out of 70, right? And then here we're gonna do some basic things, right? So first, we want to calculate the percentage that they got, right? So percentage. And okay, let's do like our percentage, right? So we remember the data type of what it is, and then how do we calculate percentage? We take the mark and then we set it out of 70 multiplied by 100, right? So just to play it safe, so that we don't want to get any logic errors, let's just put this under inside a bracket, right? So just to avoid those logic errors, let's tell it, okay, this is what I want you to do first, and then multiply it by 100, okay, just to be safe. Okay, there's our process. Now we can have our output. You see that? So the IPO is still valid, right? So I hope you guys remember your IPO system. So here it is. So how then do we go about it? Say we want to print out if they passed or failed, right? So we can say if, right? So since we're dealing with numbers here, we cannot put false and true, right? We're dealing with numbers here, right? And which number are we checking? We're checking the percentage, right? So if percentage, right, is greater than 50, okay? So if percentage is greater than 50, that means they have passed, right? So not just that, but you can have is it equal to, or yeah, does it come here or here? I can't quite remember. Is greater or equal to, yes, greater or equal to, like this. Is greater or equal to 50, then print out you passed, right? You passed. Right? And then else you have not failed. You have failed, right? Print line you failed. Okay, with an exclamation mark. So it just scares the user, like, yeah. Okay. All right, I saved. So let's try and run this again. Okay, so there is a error there. What's my error? Okay, I said I mark instead of R mark. Okay, so that's my bad, because I was going to use an integer in the beginning. So yeah, I made that mistake there. So yeah, we all make mistakes now and then. Okay, so there it is. Enter your mark out of 70. Right. So now I'm going to enter 10. right? You failed. There's our program. It's working. Let's run it again. Then this time we're going to type in 50, and it says you passed, right? Right? There we go. There it is. Right. Now let's take it a little bit step. Let's take another step forward. Right. Now, say we also want to print out if they got a description, if they got a distinction or not. Right. If they got a distinction or not. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. Right. So you can add another if. Right. You can add another if in here, right, and say if percentage is greater than what's is it 75? Yeah, 75. Right. Print dot like this, and then say let's just say congratulations. Now they won't even say congratulations. You have gotten a distinction. Right, you have gotten a distinction, right, with an exclamation like this, right? So now let's go back. Okay, right. I just want to write it like this first, and I'm going to show you guys something you need to look out for. So this is going to give me a logic error. Right? I'm going to explain what's going on in a moment. Right? So okay? Let's just say 65. Right? Okay. You see this? So it says you passed, and it says congratulations, you have gotten a distinction. Yeah. Okay, so you remember when I was explaining and I said that only one is going to get executed. Yeah, but here we are getting two, right? So we're getting two things that are being executed. So this line here is being executed, and this one is being executed, but we only wanted one to be executed. So what happened? What happened is that the moment you have two ifs like this, so you have an if, and then you have a different if. So what's going to happen is that Java counts these as two different conditions, right? So you have this condition, right? So you have this condition set. Let me use set. So you have this condition set, and you have this condition set, right? So these are the only two condition set that you have, right? So in order to show you what I'm talking about, let's run the code one more time. Now, right, so I'm going to say 35, right? So 35 is 50% of 70, right? So if I hit enter, you're going to see you have passed and you have failed all at the same time, right? You say that you passed and you failed. So how does that happen? Right? So that's because this is one condition set on its own, and this is a different, sorry about that, and this is a different condition set on its own. So it checks if it's greater than 50, right? So this condition set gets executed, and then this condition set also gets executed, right? But that's not what you're looking for, right? So how then do you fix this? Right? So notice that we have two ifs in here. So this causes a different condition set. So every time you have a new if, it creates a new condition set. So that's not what you're looking for. So the thing that you need is else if, right? So you only need one if statement, but however, you can have as many else if in between if and else, right? You can have an unlimited amount of else ifs, but you only need to have one if and one else, because once you type a new if, it creates a whole new condition set, right? So now when we run this again, we're going to get a different logic error, right? So I'm going to do this. So now we're going to type in 65, which is supposed to be a distinction, but it says you passed, right? So we still have a logic error, right? So like I said, logic errors are very tricky, and yeah. So what's going on? What's going on is that Java goes line by line, right? So that's how it's created. It goes line by line. So immediately it sees this, and this gets executed. Everything else is jumped. It does not consider it. So what do you need to do? So you need to take the highest one first to be on top. You need to check for the distinction first before you can check if they passed in a normal way. So I'm just going to cut this and put it right here on top, because this is supposed to be the first statement because it is the highest, right? And then change this one to be an else if. Okay. So now we have fixed the logic errors. Our program is now running kind of perfectly, right? Kind of perfectly. So now if I say 65, now it says, congratulations, you have gotten a distinction, because it goes line by line, right? So yeah, this is it. This is how you do your things, right? So now you can have, let's do it. Let's just do it. Right? Let's just do it. So now we do have a problem here. The problem here is that, what if I write 71? How do you get 71 out of 70? It does not make sense, right? So the program still says, congratulations, you have gotten a distinction. Okay, so there's a problem here, right? So the problem is it's not supposed to go over 70. Okay, so now first we need to check if the input given is greater than 70. All right. So you can check if it's greater than 70, or you can check if it's greater than 100 or less than 0, because you cannot get a negative percent. You cannot get anything above 100%, right? So in here, we're just going to use our percentage. So if our percentage is greater than 100, right? And then you remember what I said. I said you cannot get anything above 100 and you cannot get anything below 0. Okay. So how do you then add those two conditions? So if our percentage is greater than 100 or our percentage is less than 0, then it's supposed to print out an error. Okay. So, or you use these two lines, and then if you want to combine them and say if it's greater than 100 and less than 0, which does not make sense, you use the two and sign. So this is how you concatenate conditions, right? So however, we need to check if it's greater than 100 or it's less than 0. So you see how everything just kind of falls into place, or it's less than 0, right? And then system out print line and say invalid output, right? So we just want to say invalid output for this. Now, since we've added a new if statement, what do we need to do here? We need to change this to be an else if, right? I just wanted to show you guys that you can have as many else if in between the if and the else as you possibly can. Right? So now when we run this, save, okay, load changes, and then now if I type in 71, right? So it's above. So there we go, invalid output, right? Oh, it's supposed to be invalid input, but yeah, there we go, invalid input, right? So now we cannot get anything above 100%, right? And now when we try this again and try to enter something like -15, right? Invalid output, invalid input, because you cannot get negative. Yeah, even if you're cheating, it does not go to negative, right? It just ends at 0, and that is it. So yeah, guys, I just want to show you guys how we use else if. We use the if and else, condition sets to just maneuver our program, right? So I showed you guys how to work with booleans. I showed you guys how to work with numbers. You can also do strings. Should we do strings? Do you guys do strings in PPA, in PPA, in PPA, in PPA, in PPA, in PPA? All right, you know what? Let me just do strings before I end the video. And then should I do character as well? Okay, I'm gonna do strings and I'm gonna do character. I'm sorry, this video is going to be kind of long, right? Or you know what? Let me just cut the video here, and then I'll do character and strings on the next video.